So if you wouldn't mind each introducing yourself and your film and pass this along.
Sure. My name is Michael Fodera. I'm the writer and director of Holding Pattern.
Hi, I'm Veronica Hein. I'm the writer and director of Marks of Cain. Also, that was cropped. The usual aspect ratio is wider, so I don't know why that was cropped wrong.
Hi, I'm Sultan, writer and director of The Next Stop.
Hi, my name's Hudson Flynn. I'm the writer and director of Writing You Down.
Hi, how you guys doing? I'm Kevin Gaddi, and I'm the writer and director of Teyo.
I'm Liv Sinhart, and I did concept for Bloodlust.
And I'm Colin Kornfeind. I'm the writer, director, producer of What a Trip.
Start with Holly, we'll come back down. Yeah, if each of you would just let us know what inspired you to make your film.
Drugs.
That's it?
That's it?
We like that.
I study horror and historical erotica, and one thing it's like, there's always something so erotic about violence in media, like throughout all the years, and I like combining the two.
Well, I hadn't made a film in like 6 or 7 years, and it was in the midst of the pandemic, so I was really itching to make one. And I remember a story that my friend told me of when he was 12. He was kind of a delinquent, and he used to steal from unlocked parked cars. And I was thinking about that at 2 a.m. for some reason, and I sort of just made a story about a kid dealing with grief from there and how it like fundamentally changes you. And it's also just kind of a thriller too about a kid stealing a gun from an unlocked parked car of a rival gang member. So I just linked those two ideas together, and I also wanted to tell a nonlinear story for the first time too. So yeah.
My film was my sophomore thesis in my school, and a lot of young filmmakers around me were discussing and having this interesting conflict of like not knowing how much they're allowed to take from real life because of the sort of moral dilemma and not really understanding where the idea could go and if that's harmful or not. And so I was excited about exploring the idea of someone who takes that as far as they possibly can, and just the potentials of what that story could be. So yeah, thanks.
I would say my love for sci-fi and surrealism, and my love for hip-hop and rap culture in New York City. Definitely my top reasons.
This was actually the first film I made. It was for a school project, and the inspiration was definitely from the environment I kind of grew up in, like Midwest America, and just the ideas of what consent education are there, and that's what kind of sparked that first film. So.
This film took place, we didn't shoot it over a weekend. We started with a single idea. I got to shoot it with some of my best friends, and we actually shot it over the course of like the better part of a year because the concept kept growing. So it sort of was born out of a coping mechanism for grief, but then it turned into something was more like tripping over yourself in life and death a little bit. Yeah.
So is it purgatory?
It is purgatory, limbo, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, all right. The next one is, what's the best and worst piece of advice you've ever got about filmmaking? Probably a lot there, yeah. We like the worst stuff.
I'll start with the best. The best was just do it. Just go for it. Make the worst. That's a tough one. I don't have as much time. The best thing I've gotten is just do it. The worst thing is you don't have it in you to do this. And I was like, well, screw you. I'm going to do it anyway. So, and now it's 5 films ago. So yeah.
I would say the best piece of advice I've ever gotten is to love the journey, because I think that the act of creating itself is where you really find the satisfaction. And then probably the worst, I don't know if I've ever gotten bad advice, but I would say something important to keep in mind and never to do is to compare yourself and to just like believe in what you're making.
Best advice is it's just a movie. So don't stress yourself out. It's just a movie. You're not curing cancer or, solving the world. You're making art. So love that. The worst advice, I would just say opposite of that. Don't do it. Just stop what you're doing. Yeah. And keep doing it always.
The worst advice I think I got was someone was like, when you're making stuff, make sure that you're also thinking about like the comments in when you post it, because that's going to help you curate what people want to see. And I was like, that's...
I thought you said that was the best.
Nope, that's the worst. That's the worst. The best is probably that like any set rules for filmmaking are not rules. They're like general guidelines. But I've been studying film since middle school in a lot of different programs and intensives and curriculums that really define exactly what has to go into making a film. And as soon as I was able to sort of realize from that piece of advice that those are suggestions, I think that I think that allowed me to make my best work. So.
The best piece of advice I got, and this is the best thing I can come up with, but I had an acting professor in college, and he was like the first person who like instilled the idea in me that I had to like kind of treat it like an athlete, and I'm kind of a lazy person by nature, and I get bored very quickly. So it's kind of a thing of endurance for me. So I would say that's the best piece of advice. And the worst piece of advice I got was when I was 17 or 18, I think, and I wanted to get into the film industry. And some bozo told me that Asians don't really make it in this industry, which is complete BS. That's not really advice, though, but that's the worst thing I could come up with. Yeah.
The best piece of advice has definitely been just perseverance and just going at it. And I haven't really had worst advice, but I've had like bad comments of like, are you sure you want to do this? So do you know what you're doing?
Yeah, I think best and worst is kind of the same comment. Like years ago, I got the comment of like making any type of creative endeavor is a bit like a message in a bottle, or like you throw it into the ocean and you hope that somebody reads it someday, somewhere. So that's good and bad, because you feel the uselessness in just kind of throwing it out there, but then you have moments like this where a room full of people see the message in a bottle. So that's kind of the best and the worst.
So you combined it,
Yeah.
I get that. All right. So about your particular films, what was the challenge you dealt with while making this film?
For us, and I have some of my crew and cast in the room, it was mostly COVID, because we had a lot of restrictions. We were SAG, so we had a lot of SAG restrictions and making sure everybody was tested every day. But my gaffer who was here, Jake, said that this was easily the smoothest production that he's been on, so that was a compliment that I keep with me. But I think COVID was probably the hardest part, just making sure we were under protocol.
How smooth? How was it smooth?
Jake, how smooth?
I mean, how was it smooth? Because
Yeah, you tell me, because I was in it. Like, yeah. So yeah. Back to the drugs.
It's like everything was pretty smooth because we all like were on the same page about concept and just how we wanted it to look, but we didn't get actors till like the night before. Because originally it was we were going to have it be a heterosexual relationship, but we couldn't find any good males, and they were just like a little too creepy, and it was like the cannibal's supposed to be creepy, not the guy. But so we have our two actresses here. Hi, Olive and Alice. But they really helped.
So was that a challenge, changing that they were heterosexual?
Surprisingly, no, because I've like in my heart I always wanted to make it two girls, but it's like I'm already pushing it a little bit too much with my school, but making it kind of gory. I've had to censor myself so much for it, but it's.
So Liv is at the High School of Art and Design, and actually this was part of a project, a workshop that Astoria Film Festival did, where we brought in professionals to kind of give feedback, and we loved that you changed the couple.
Yeah.
Happy about that.
Fan favorite.
Your teacher's right here, by the way.
A story's a story.
Yeah.
Well, he was also his teacher, from what I understand. attendees.
yeah.
It's like a reunion. And I know Hudson since he was a freshman at Sinatra, where we were working with them. So.
Family affair. Going.
Yeah, very. It's awesome.
Cool.
Thank you. I would say, I'm sorry, what was the question again? Exactly, I'm trying to rephrase what I know what the,
What was the challenge you dealt with while making this film?
yeah, so a big challenge for me was kind of the imposter syndrome of, I don't know if I should be telling a story about grief, considering I didn't really lose anyone who was close to me, so that was a big one. I kind of thought I threw that in there because I wanted to tell kind of a thrilling story about a kid who's stealing from the parked car of a rival gang member. But then I started doing research, and I had some close friends to me who lost loved ones, and I did some research about a woman in India who actually committed suicide because she hired a private investigator and found out her husband was cheating on her. So I just thought that if I rooted it in a reality and I made it authentic, then I did my job correctly. And I really did try to just make it as real as possible, kind of try to make it feel like a documentary but shot like a fiction. But that was like a really big one for me because the entire time I kind of felt like quitting because I was like, I have no right to be telling the story. But like I got it done and I did the research and I'm happy with it. So yeah.
But you felt like you shouldn't make it. Why? That seems odd.
Because I never lost a loved one who was close to me, so I just felt like I had no right to be telling it. But there had to be kind of a reason for you to care about this kid and why is he doing these delinquent activities and acting out. And it made sense to me that the death of a loved one would change you pretty hard, especially if you're like 12. When I was 12, I wasn't really dealing with depression or anything like that. So it had to be something kind of catastrophic in his life, which is like, he loved his mom so much and his dad's kind of an asshole. So he's in this next phase in his life. So I thought that was a valid reason that would fundamentally change him and have him do these kind of delinquent criminal activities. But yeah, dealing with the imposter syndrome was like kind of hard for me. But I don't know. I also viewed it as you're a filmmaker or a writer, so you're kind of like a professional liar. So I just tried to try really hard to make it real. So yeah.
But you found the truth.
Oh, thank you. That's the key, right? Appreciate it.
We lost footage, which is like the nightmare thing that can happen. We somewhere in digital transfer, I sent it to someone to dump footage, and by the time I was in the editing room, which is pretty quickly on like a student curriculum, it wasn't there. And so we had a master of the scene and no close-ups, and so I edited it like that for a while. And then we went back, and it's the museum scene where they're both by the painting, and then we went back and shot their close-ups because I was like, I really need that coverage, and I never ended up using them. So in production, it was a really stressful experience, but actually it's sort of this happy accident where I just discovered that I really enjoyed watching the two of them in one lingering master. So, yeah.
Two things. First would be post-production. That was probably the most challenging thing. Paul, my editor, he knows the whole journey. Yeah, that was... Y'all know post-phase? Post-phase is like the second round, like, fight night. It's crazy. It's real. It's real. Oh, my God. Color grading, and yeah, it was a lot. Second thing would be, so this film was made with the Fellowship, so it was my first time communicating with stakeholders and like actual professionals for a company. So hearing a lot of no's and that doesn't really work out or that's not really fitting our thing and the consistent changing every single time. So it was like basically your story just gets kind of not diluted but just more shifted, but still finding your voice in that shift. So that was the really struggling part, but I enjoyed it because now I'm in a place where I can make my art but at the same time communicate with, company and businessmen like that. So it was like a give and take, but that was definitely my two main humps.
And did those notes, do you think in the end it made a better film, or you would have been without hearing that.
I mean, like 2 were good. The rest was like, yeah. The rest was like, I'm good. Yeah.
Did you do the others?
Yeah, I did.
So you got two, yeah.
And I was like, yeah, but it worked out perfectly.
I think the biggest challenge was also post-production for me. The actual production went really smoothly. It was just mainly keeping myself like on track to just not let it sit on my hard drive because I was still a student after it and was working on other things like right after. But and there's also just such an exhaustion that comes after you're done with production that it like you don't even want to have to look at the edits and like start making it. But I just ended up like it was sitting there for so long. I was just like, okay, I'm gonna edit it myself and like just score it. And then I felt so much more of an accomplishment after it was done. But definitely just keeping myself like with a schedule for post production. It's important.
Too.
I scored it and edited it.
Oh, excellent. Wow, okay.
But yeah.
Also, 2 things. I'll make the first one quick. The drone shots in the night in the forest. We tried to do it the first night we were there. Nothing worked. The smoke machine didn't work. The drone didn't work. The light didn't work. Camera, that worked, but we were all really cold. It was 8 degrees, and we were like a quarter mile away from our car. Went back to our cabin, tinkered, figured it out. I almost quit. I have to give my DP and very good friend Nick Galante credit. He's like, no, this is a really cool story. You should tell it. And thankfully, cooler heads prevailed. The second was, Christina, can you raise your hand real fast? Our lovely operator, Christina Banky, when we filmed her in the studio, the owner of the studio said, don't worry, nobody else is going to book the one next to you. Cool. We showed up to 60 people. It was a Lil Nas X shoot. Excellent. And I'm going to say 24 times we had to ask his security, his makeup, his entourage, everybody like, please be quiet. So Christina in the raw footage was handling me, giving her direction while getting very frustrated. But cooler heads prevailed again. And to Christina's credit, and I guess the film's credit, we had to keep the door open a little bit to get air into the studio every once in a while. And here is Christina dolled up with a switchboard, and all of their entourage would like look in like, what the hell is going on in there? So we're like, all right, we're doing something cool in here. So, but yeah, first night, technical, second day in the studio was people related. So.
That's madness.
No.
So is Cooler Heads your nickname for Nick?
Yeah. I'll leave it at that. Yeah. I think towards the end I was texting the studio owner, basically suggesting either you need to give me a discount or they need to pay for my day rate. And suddenly it got really quiet outside. So, yeah.
That'll do it. Okay.
Can I ask you, Ditto, like, based off of what was being said about getting notes and trying to keep your voice during notes, like you've had professional experience with that, can you talk a little bit about what that's like?
It's torture. Sure. Torture, no different than what y'all are saying. You know, it's you. My first instinct was always like, screw these idiots. You know, like it gets so mad, and then, but I'll try anything, and then, you know, as you get older, you mellow out a little bit. I still haven't totally mellowed out, but you know, but I think if to what you're saying, if you could find a way to take their idea. Because sometimes the note, they'll try to fix the note, try to fix your scene with a note, so it makes you want to say, screw you, you don't know my movie, you know? But then maybe what they're saying, at least in my thing, sometimes I hate them, like you say, all the way. But like, oh, maybe that wasn't the right thing, but they're having a problem with this guy, you know? So, but yeah, it's torturous. And first,
trying to figure out exactly what their problem, the issue.
well, and we all have a wall, right? So we get mad because you're so scared. In making a film, it's terrifying, and you feel like someone's going to take it and ruin it, you know? Because it's like, if you're a painter, you can paint it by yourself and then present it, and then people can say it sucks, whatever, you know? But a movie, it's like a community painting at the same time, and it gets so scary, right? I mean, like, it's more fear, at least my thing, and that never goes away, unfortunately. But if you're lucky enough to be able to make something on your own or whatever, and you can digest those notes, sometimes they're not. They in the end, if you like the film, then I'm like, oh, I'm glad they tortured me a little, you know. So that's the best I can say. Okay, one more question to go around to. you guys.
Sure.
Can you give me one piece of advice for upcoming filmmakers? Goes along with the last note.
Yeah, I would say realize it as best as you can, because you just make the film you want to make, but the way to really kick it off is start opening your mouth to other people that you have to start delivering. Because to me, I'll write and write and write and write, but until I open my mouth to Nick or Tim, who's also in my film, was like, I got this idea, book this, like, don't book this weekend, please. As soon as I open my mouth at that, it's just sort of like, okay, I put myself out there. Now I have to deliver to them. And then it's that community. It's that the community making the painting. So I hate to say it, just open your mouth and just commit. So
I think definitely like finding the right people to create with is super important. I sound holistic saying it, but like synergy is really important on set. And like Ava, who I brought with me, who is the producer on the film, like she's been with me on like 20 to 30 different sets that we've done, and like she just shot my most recent film too. And it's just when you have the right people that you're collaborating with, everything just feels so much more like harmonious and connected, and it's so much more fulfilling. So definitely finding just the right people that you vibe with and have a similar vision and goal as you.
I agree with that, both of your points. I would say explore more. Obviously watch more movies, but go to art galleries, read more books, try to just expand your mind creatively, because I feel a lot of our inspirations come from different parts of life and different meanings. There's so many symbols, so many stories that have been told way before us. So I feel like the more you learn about not so much filmmaking, the more about storytelling and more about visual, compensation, the better you just be as a filmmaker all around, the more expansive your voice will be. So just go out and just try new things and just meet new people, and go to art galleries. Just go solo dates, enjoy yourself, and see what's out there for you.
I would say trust yourself. As a filmmaker, like, you had an idea and you want to follow through on that idea, and you really have to trust that your idea is worth bringing everyone together to make it, because I think there's a lot of imposter syndrome for a lot of filmmakers, and anxiety can always get the better, and like you said, like, it can be really scary and really stressful. And I honestly think if you are willing to trust yourself as much as the people that you've assembled around you are there to trust you, then I think you're going to be okay. But you can't let any other outside voice that's telling you, like, well, maybe everybody's here and they don't know that I actually have no idea what I'm doing. Like, that's never the case. You got them there, right? They gathered around you. So yeah, trust yourself when you're making movies.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with what all they said, especially of the living life one. I think definitely just like the hardships you experience in life, it really, like, you really learn from it, even if you don't like process it in your mind, like subconsciously, like you just get something out of that stuff, and it just improves it in like your own art in ways that you don't understand. But in terms of like actual filmmaking, I would say it's important to have that confidence and that cockiness at first of like, I'm just gonna do whatever I want, and this is what I like, and I'm gonna try to line it up with what other people like. But like, I realized while making this that it's really important to listen to the notes and just the advice of people that are trying to help you, because there are so many decisions that I made in this film that were altered because I ended up listening to some of my crew members and testing it out in the edit and listening to their suggestions on set, and it made it so much better that like, this is the film that really taught me this is really like a collaborative thing. And this is definitely what I wanted, but it wasn't all me. Like, my DP was also helping me with the editing. The edit was way better after he sent me his notes, and I'm just so grateful for the people who helped me with that. So definitely have that like cockiness of like, you're gonna do what you want to do, and hopefully people are going to like it or relate with it, but also be willing to listen to other people's advice and just make sure that it's people that they genuinely want to help you, not like haters or anything like that, because there is some advice that you shouldn't take from people, but yeah, just don't be arrogant and just be willing to listen to everyone and take their notes and consider it, even if you don't agree with it, but just try to consider it for a second. So yeah.
It would just go for it, because it's not until a year or two ago, I've never touched a camera or done anything film related. I was supposed to major in illustration. I've studied painting and drawing my whole life, and I'm gonna do film, and it's been awesome. I've met so many cool people, and it's such a fun experience just going to something blind. So just if you're scared of it, just do it. It's there's nothing I can lose really by learning a new skill.
It's connected to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of these points are great. I would also say don't compare yourself to others or their successes.